well, we have to get started in a minute. Where is she? Oh.
Here I am.
You're so far ahead of me. I can't understand this.
It's all right. What's that rhythm called?
I don't know. That's what the rhythm is truly called.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just playing what I heard.
All right.
You know, when you listen to people like Amanda Parazza and the brother Buyu and the other great Congo players, bongo players, you pick up stuff. I'm trying to pick up whatever I can.
I was glad to meet him.
Yeah. Well, you've met Armando and you all
and
talk to each
Francisco.
other.
Yeah, and Francisco.
Or rather, he talked to you. And talked at you. He talked over you and talked.
Awesome person.
Yeah,
wonderful.
he has a reputation for being a conversationalist.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start reading where I stopped.
All right.
And it'll be from this book called The Snake Doctor. I have to say that because
yes, right there.
with two books
Yes.
having snake, I want to make the difference between Snake
Doctor.
2020 and the Snake Doctor.
Got it. Fantastic.
Okay, here we go.
All right. And so what chapter are you on?
This is chapter, I'm going to read two chapters. They're both fairly short. Chapter 9 and chapter 10.
This is fantastic.
At this point, we know that Kojo is married to Akosua.
Yeah.
After having had this little trip down to Mexico, they'll have to redo it, probably according to U.S. law at some point in time. But for now, they're deeply into the idea of doing the script that he talked about doing, My Grandfather's Eyes.
Yes.
He has run into Asiapo in the middle of the Sonoran Desert. And that sort of boosted his idea of boosted and tripped him out at the same time. What are you doing here? Chapter 9. They had split the script into two parts. He was dealing. I see you, Alfred. I see you. And I know what you're doing. Let me start again.
All right.
They had split the script into two parts. He was dealing with the disharmony, the grief of the African Holocaust, diaspora as a series of small stories within the big story. Somehow, sometimes, it's funny that people find it hard to think about of the African diaspora. It just simply is black people everywhere. How'd they get there?
I know.
Well, as a series of small stories within a big story. The scope of the thing is too huge for a 90-minute film. I'm trying to scale it down to human terms to make it understandable for people who can't imagine the genocide of millions over a 400-year period and yet maintain the enormous scope of the madness. Akosua was working on part 2, showing how a super psychic glue was used to prevent the disintegration of the Africans who were exploited. What forces can you identify that would serve the purpose of preventing total disintegration of the African psyche, of the Africanity in us? Well, spirituality is one of the major factors. I'm speaking of African spirituality, not Christianity, or Islam, or any of the other foreign systems that invaded Africa. I'm having my eyes open by studies that pinpoint the vitality of the African spiritual systems, branches. It's called voodoo in Haiti, candomblé in Brazil, Santeria in Cuba, Shango in Trinidad, Obeah in Jamaica, the religion, or Yoruba, in the U.S., and interlocked spirituality that exists wherever there are African people. I'm putting an emphasis on the spiritual thing, and of course, the roles that women have played in helping us retain our souls. We got work to do. They paid Grandfather Kwame a 2-hour visit to discuss the African American genius for pushing nihilism into a distant corner. Now, don't get me wrong, you two. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to come right out and say that we were spiritually stronger in the old days. I can't honestly say that. What I can say is that the floods that cause erosion are deeper now. Maybe it's got something to do with global warming. In any case, I can see that a lot of our young people are just giving themselves up to substances and garments. That is to say, pleasure and adornments. They block out matters that they think will cause them any kind of deep thinking. I don't honestly know. It may have something to do with how cleverly the white boys who run America have manipulated the obstacles in front of them, behind them, around them. In ancient times, in my day, we knew exactly what the deal was. We had two simple choices to make, either survive or thrive. Or either survive and thrive, or surrender and die. Sorry, I just got that wrong.
Gotcha.
Let me say that again. We had two choices. Survive and thrive, or surrender and die. Hope y'all got that right.
Got it.
As I see things now, there's so many distractions on the way to the real deal. So many strange con games being played. For example, the distinction between something authentic and something cosmetic are worlds apart. But nowadays, many of us would rather have the cosmetic and push the authentic aside. You know what I'm saying? That's right.
Okay.
They nodded in tandem. The old man was from truth, was about truth, and that's what they came for. Early in the game, we were exposed to the raw face of reality, authentic reality. In the South especially, but in the North too. There was no cosmetic face to study. This was the real deal. You're here to talk with an old man about what he sees, what he has seen, and I'm giving it to you straight up.
Grandfather's eyes.
You dig it?
Yeah, okay.
You know, you man talk to you like
okay,
your
yeah.
grandfather talked to you like that.
Yeah.
Sit down there, girl. Let me talk to you.
Yeah. Indeed.
After I get through spanking you for what you did.
He really spanked.
I mean, after
Mama spanked.
we were not as confused and messed around by a lot of subliminals. I think it would have been pretty hard to think of yourself as an upper class slave or a lower class slave. I love Malcolm X for many reasons, but I never felt comfortable with his house niggas and field niggas thing. Surely there must have been house niggas in the field and some field niggas in the house. Common sense would tell us that. There wasn't a bunch of computers back then or sophisticated anti-American think tanks. Stuff was real primitive back then. Shootings, burnings, lynchings. We knew who the enemy was. Every day was Katrina time. I wouldn't want to try to pinpoint the exact moment in time that we went from the real deal to fantasy, but I suspect it happened somewhere in the 60s when enough fertilizer had been spread to make people believe that racial justice was going to be achieved. Of course, it didn't happen. It's not ever going to happen as long as we continue to buy into the cosmetic. That may sound like a negative assessment of the situation, but that's what reality can be like. The old man paused to take a slow sip of Chivas Regal.
Wow.
Like I'm doing.
Yeah, okay.
Grandfather, do you believe our ancestors, the spirits, are responsible for surviving chattel slavery and the aftermath? Daughter, I'll tell you the honest to God truth. I can't point my finger at any other energy source. I spent many hours of my life trying to discover the secret of our will to overcome. Many hours. And after all the fancy wrappings have been stripped away, we always wind up at spiritual benchmarks that were drawn by our ancestors. Don't give up. Don't forget those who suffered for you. Look back, but keep on moving forward. Sankofa. Sankofa. You know something? I've been disappointed in our intellectuals, our poets and writers for years, because they've never made a serious effort to tap into our spirituality. From time to time, one of the more adventurous types will step out a half step, but they never go beyond that. I suspect that they've all been so Christianized and Islamicized that they feel that delving into our spiritual history is blaspheming or something. Kojo, I've taken your daddy to task about this. I used to ask him, why is it I can go to the bookstore and pick up books on Hindu thought about the other side, Japanese, the sun and cherry blossoms, Jewish thinking on the Jewish Holocaust, but there's not one book on the African spiritual conquest of chattel slavery. The African spiritual conquest of chattel slavery. He told me he didn't have any books about this phenomenon because no one has written one. Can you imagine such a thing? We ought to be swamped with books, pamphlets even, about the spiritual forces that we tapped into in order to overcome the nihilism inherent to chattel slavery. Somebody told you were a thing. A friend of mine who was in prison in Angola was talking about how the gods used to call them things. Come here, old thing.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah, you thing.
Dehumanizing.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll go a step further and say, we need to have our asses kicked, pardon my French, Akosua, for not having a Holocaust diaspora monument erected in all of the places we were shipped to. It's absurd that they would have monuments to Lassie, the wonder dog, and statues for every racist snake dog who ever showed his face. But only a very few serious monuments to the blood, sweat, and sorrow that our people have given this country. Granddad, do you think a film could be a monument? Well, let's take a look at it. All right, question. Do we have any strangers in the house? Anybody here who doesn't know everybody else? Good. However, there's one person I would like to introduce you to. Her name is Akosua Ferguson Brown, my wife. This is Kojo's first meeting of all the people who are going to help him do the film.
Yes.
Kojo looked around the room, wall-to-wall talent. Salena-Hawkins, DJ Robinson, Philip Charles, Sid Burns, Ed Burns, Mac Weaver, Jackie F. Muhammad, Michael Sims, Juna, heavyweights. Now then, let me give you the briefest of explanations concerning this project. Delman Nagata, the future office manager, pulled out a steno pad and ballpoint. The explanation given, the floor was open. Kojo, you're talking about a film production company that will produce excellent film. I mean, you got that right, DJ, and with good fortune smiling on us, you'll be the cameraman like Bergman's Sven Nyquist. I like your idea of using sound effects rather than out of dialogue. That's never been done with black film. They usually have us talking too damn much. Sid,
Yes.
with all due respect, we're talking about a whole new ball game. That's one of the mean things that's been done with us for a long time. We've had the wrong label slapped on our goodies. Sounds like the music is going to be the most important element of this film, My Grandfather's Ice. Why? Which is why we have asked the inimitable Juna to do the score. Were you wondering why I was here, Jackie?
Oops.
Juna, I never wonder why you are wherever you are.
Cattails.
Uh-oh. Past hostilities. Akosua slipped in suavely. Now, sisters. We don't want to have Jackie F. Muhammad, the top PR person around, and Juna, the top musician computer around, clawing each other to pieces, can we?
No.
Do we?
No. Okay.
There was a moment of edgy silence while the people in the room looked at the would-be antagonist with disapproving eyes. Now then, going right along, I'm going to assume from this point on that everyone here is going to become a card-carrying member of our production company.
Wonderful name.
Akosua did a double take and smiled at Kojo's reaffirmative wink. Our production company? Perfect. Better than Cosmic Muffin Productions. I mean, but that has its place too.
Yes, it does.
Water, water everywhere, and none to drink. Do we have anyone who wants to get out? Ed Burns, assistant director, second unit director on 30 feature films, cleared his throat. I want in, definitely. But I think some serious questions need to be addressed. The first consideration is, of course, the dream. And you've done a hellified job of laying that on us. It's called pitching, Ed. You know how it's done. The group shared insiders' laughter. Right. Now, after the pitch, let's get to the most important question of all. Where's the money coming from to do Grandfather 5? Every eye focused on Kojo. He took a subconsciously aggressive stance. Ed, as the politicians say, I'm glad you asked that question. The only answer I can give you at the moment is an honest one. I don't know. Akosua's jaw dropped with all the other dismayed reaction in the room. Kojo rushed on to say, No, I can't tell you at this moment exactly where it's coming from, but I'm going to ask you to trust me for at least a couple of months till we really kick this thing into gear. Mac Weaver here. Kojo, let's say we all trust you, and we know we can because you've always been a straight-up guy. Thanks, Mike. Now then, let's say we wind up with a fabulous film. How do we get it distributed? We'll have to cope with that situation, that problem when we get to it. I have a sneaking suspicion we may have to deal with the usual suspects. Once again, they shared insider smiles. They knew who the usual suspects were. Question? Please put your hand down, Thelma, and stop pretending you're in the 5th grade. It was such a wonderful time in my life.
Oh my.
Before I discovered boys. Oh well. Question is, do you have any fears that our production company will have a racist flag put on it by the usual suspects because we have no non-colored people in the company? Thelma, I read you loud and clear. I've asked the people who are closest to me to participate in this venture, that's all. We may find other people who are willing to go through what we know about, and we'll consider their particulars. You see, what I'm asking for is a very strong commitment from everybody here. I wouldn't consider people I don't know as well as you brothers and sisters. I know what I'm asking, and I'm asking a lot. But I know we can pull it off. We've done it before. Kojo, what about office space, phones, all that madness? Jackie, by the end of next month, we'll have office space in a fantastic Quonset-sized hut on Slauson and Stanford, a half a block east of Main Street. Juna gasped. That's in South Los Angeles. Kojo, uncertain of the gasp, whether indicated approval or disapproval, moved right along. By the end of next month, once we're set up, we'll go into pre-production mode at the end of the following month. In other words, we'll be doing this on a month-to-month schedule.
Wow.
Unless something crazy happens, in December we'll start getting into film. I'm going to be asking you brothers and sisters to do a lot of stuff for free that the usual suspects will pay you big bucks for. It may come free at first, but I give you my word, we will profit at the end of the day. There was a heavy moment of silence broken by Juna's raspy voice. Sounds like we're getting ready to kick some ass around here. Juna's
yes.
wired.
She is definitely wired.
I have Thelma Nagata as my secretary office manager. DJ Robinson, cameraman. Philip Charles, the man who once lit the inside of a barrel using only a knot hole. Sid Burns for sound. Ed Burns, assistant director. Mac Weaver, assistant director, actor. Juna, the musician, doing the score. Jackie F. Mohammed, PR wizard. Photographer, Michael Sims. And Akosua Ferguson Brown, my co-writer, co-producer wife.
Yeah.
I've got a dynamite group ready and willing to get down with me. And I'll pick up more on the way. Why worry? The only problem is money.
Yeah, usual problem.
That's the only problem.
All right, got the dream. Where's the money?
His landlords, the Chans, were gracious about his moving to his wife's house. Oh, come on now, Kojo. We wouldn't expect for a man to live away from his wife. Best of luck to you two. October 1st, Kojo was firmly established doing 10 things at one time. Kojo, what about this loft you talked about using as an office for our production company? It's a real deal. My friend, John Outerbridge, is getting ready to move back to North Carolina, and he's leasing his space to me for a year with an option to buy. What will we use for money? Well, he's giving us the first 3 months free, and after that, $800 a month.
Wow.
Man, that's what I call a friend. Yeah, John is a gem. Always has been. Stuff started happening. Kojo, now you know if you talk to your grandfather, it was bound to get back to the family. I think I may have something of interest for you if you need money. Dad, please don't play with my head like this. If I need money? Well, I just wanted to make sure. Think you might be able to break away for a meeting with 100 black men? Your group? Yeah, one of the organizations I joined not too long after we moved out here. How does Saturday morning about 10 a.m. suit you? 10 a.m. is cool. Good, I'll pick you up about 9:30. How's the Akosua? Busy, Dad, busy. Sound like you guys are into something. Dynamite. See you Saturday. Kojo gently dropped the phone back into the cradle. 100 Black Men was one of the few organizations that his father belonged to that he wasn't exactly enthusiastic about. They gave him the impression that they were a collection of high rollers, good time types, professionals with pretensions, jive people. But I shouldn't jump to too many bad conclusions. After all, Dad's been in the group for ages. I know he's about something. Kojo, you want to take a lunch break with me? They sat under the thrift shop umbrella in their spacious backyard, $10 for hundreds of dollars a shade. Compare, compare. And feasted on a shrimp salad sandwiches and chilled white wine. Of course, I just got an interesting call from my dad. He's invited me to a meeting of 100 black men on Saturday. What's the deal? I don't know yet. He's making little sounds about money, but I don't have the slightest idea where it would be coming from. Well, I don't want to throw any curveballs at your head or anything, but the sooner we get our hands on a large sum of it, money, the better. Are we bankrupt already? No, sweetheart, not yet. Everything is cool on the home front. But I've been talking with Thelma about office equipment and stuff, and she's running some interesting figures up my head. The lady is an organizational genius. Yeah, she's really something, ain't she? He noticed it as she wedged herself away from the table. Looked like Akosua was gaining a little weight. Of course, looks like we're going to be going on a diet pretty soon, huh? She came to pose in front of him, both fists on her hip, a slight bay window blocking his view. You don't diet away babies, Kojo. You give birth to them. He pulled her down on his lap and smothered her face and neck with kisses. It was happening. It was happening. End of chapter 9. Off we go at a rapid pace into chapter 10.
Thank you.
100 black men held their Saturday meetings at the Crenshaw Club. They wandered in from early golf dates, tennis matches, aerobics workout, weightlifting, jogging. Well, I got to say this for them. They're certainly a fitness-conscious bunch of dudes. There was also a number of 100 who offered some evidence of having serious hangover and Bloody Mary breakfasts. But in the main, Kojo noted they were a healthy collection of middle-aged African-American men. He recognized a few of the more public figures, Assemblyman, what's his name, the 3 middle echelon actors, 6 or 7 doctors, a few lawyers, teachers, upper-level civil servants, a stray airplane pilot or 2, some real estate guys, the owner of the best stocked and most Afrocentric store in Southern California. Dad, are there really 100 men in this organization? More like 65. But someone thought 100 would sound better than 65. Enormous steam trays of scrambled eggs, sausages, bacon, white rye toast, and huge carrots of orange juice were spread on the buffet table. Lunch is served, someone announced, and the men made their way to the food, laughing and joking. Kojo felt trapped. Thought we were supposed to meet at 10 a.m. His father took note of him making a sly study of his watch and whispered, "Kojo, relax. This is the way the brothers do it. Remember, we haven't seen each other since our last meeting." Breakfast finally finished, 11:30, you noticed. It was time for the business of 100 black men. The minutes of the last meeting was read, an update on the 15 college aid grants they were sponsoring, the medical bill they had helped a couple of strapped members meet, the situation with the orphanage that they were sponsoring in Accra, Ghana. Their total financial state of being was put into a transparent perspective by an accountant who made certain that everyone understood that it was his astute expertise that multiplied their funds threefold during the past 2 years. Kojo was fascinated by the casual manner the business was framed, yet how efficiently it was worked out. He was startled to look and see that his father was speaking. "So rather than attempt to tell you what it's all about, I prefer that you be given the story firsthand. May I present my son, Kojo Akosua Brown." He was slightly befuddled for a moment as polite applause accompanied him to the lectern. What the hell can I say to these guys? It took him a few moments to unravel the tape to know where to start and where he wanted to wind up. They weren't a difficult group to talk to. In some ways, it was like speaking to 65 facets of his father.
Nice.
I don't have a prepared speech because I didn't really expect to speak to you guys. "Speak your heart!" someone called out from the rear of the room. He decided to go from his USC film school days, the frustrations, the Eurocentric racism that was so deeply ingrained there that the people who were guilty of maintaining it didn't even realize it. It was like a second skin to them, he explained. The support that his mom and dad gave him, the family. The difficulties was trying to gain creative control of some percentage of the cinematic African-American image, what his recent trips to Ghana and Denmark meant. The heroic story he wanted to tell in My Grandfather's Eyes. The heroic story he wanted to tell in My Grandfather's Eyes. How it represented in some way all of their grandfathers. The problems he was facing trying to take it up. That was the problem. After 20 minutes of heartfelt speaking, he dried up. He had let it all out. There was nothing else to say. The applause surprised him. What were they clapping for?
Presentation.
The Saturday meeting of 100 black men was slowly melting away. The business was just beginning. Father Brown came to steer him into a room where 5 members of the 100 were seated at a conference table waiting for him. "Kojo, this is our preliminary screening committee. This is Brother Franklin, Brother Castle, Brother Turner, Brother Settles, and Brother Dirksen, our accountant." He shook hands with the men and stood in place, feeling like a schoolboy in front of the class. "Have a seat, Kojo. Let's talk about what you need and what we want." He's a businessman.
Serious.
I think I must have stumbled out of the conference room after about 45 minutes of information exchange interrogation.
Wow.
They wanted me to give them some hard-edged reasons for granting me the seed money for my grandfather's hives. Our exchange indicated how little they understood above the line, below the line, costs and a few other things about the movie business, but they understood how money can be cloned.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were concerned about was whether or not they would receive a decent return on their investment within a reasonable time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Dirksen, the accountant, asked the toughest questions and took the most notes. Have you identified your core market? How long do you think it would take you to show us a profit on our investment? I had to confess to Dad that I had doubts about whether or not I had come off as well as I wanted to. Dad stroked me out nicely. Kojo, it's cool. Everything is cool. Take my word for it.
Wow.
These brothers have been waiting to jump onto some media action for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, we were debating about the acquisition of a television station. You're the perfect scenario for us. Young, educated, at one of the best film schools in the country, got a productive track record, travel, about to burn the world up with your accomplishments, and you're my son to boot. What are you worried about?
Thank you.
Son?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Proud daddy.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean,
your
he must
daddy,
have been
your
proud.
daddy bad, boy.
Yeah, you can see that.
You take care.
You can see that in those paragraphs. Mm-hmm.
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 All you got to do is be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, did you get the message from your publisher? He seemed to be excited about the outline, the excerpt, what it is, whatever it is you mailed him. Got it. Cosmic Muffin Publishing, Ltd. seems to be really in love with me these days. What's happening with the black men?
Mm-hmm.
Brother Dirksen, the accountant, called me this morning and wanted some clarification on what I meant in chapter 6 on page 12.
Mm-hmm.
He's a serious dude, that one. What's the word about our bank loan? They're chewing on it. You know how it is when they've been asked to loan money for artistic purposes.
Yes.
To black people especially.
Oh.
Dear Grace, I've been so busy doing so many things that I haven't had the time to read, write, to reply to you. I've gotten married. I may as well be upfront about that, in line with our be honest with each other policy. The major reason why I got married is something that I have to be honest about too. I had to do it for ritualistic reasons. No, please don't laugh and change the channel. I've known Akosua Ferguson, now Brown, plus Ferguson, for more than 2 years. It was time for us to do something. I'm telling you this honestly, so please be prepared. My relationship with Asiafo, the man in the forest, was my catalyst for getting married. He was the one who said that I should do it if I wanted to get what I wanted. I could lay out the rest of the stipulation, but that wouldn't serve any worthwhile purpose. Please understand that I will always love you in all of the ways that we can love, and that I wish you the kind of happiness that I'm experiencing. I'm not married to the kind of woman who would become hysterical if I received an occasional letter from Ghana, so don't hesitate if you feel the urge. Love, Kojo. P.S. Looks like there's a little Kojo or Akosua on the way about 7 months from now. We won't do any scanning. The loft space was open to them. John Otterbridge had gone back down home to work for a while. Kojo and Akosua strolled through the Quonset hut-sized area. We could build sex in here. Wow, this place is huge. You'd never have any idea that this was here, entering that ordinary-sized front door. Bridge planned it that way. Now check out the burglar proofing, all of the grill work on the windows that look like works of art. They separated, peeking into odd corners, discovering, Kojo, I hear you, but where are you? Over here, behind the big panel. What is this? It's a mini kitchen, exactly the kind of thing you'd want to use to prepare midnight snacks. Now I'm really beginning to understand what he meant. We said, I'm not going to give you the guided tour. I'll let you discover the place for yourself. 14 anxiety-ridden days later, Kojo received a call from his mother. Kojo, your father decided to give me a chance to have some of the fun. What's up, Mom? Looks like you are, my son. Looks like you are. I don't understand. I'm proud and happy to say that 100 black men have just granted you a $1.5 million package to do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kojo suddenly saw stars flashing through his head. Oh my God, don't let me punk out here and faint. 1.5 mil? Is that what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. The information came straight from the accountant to your father. Congratulations, look like you're in business. You better believe it. Thanks, Mom. Talk to you later. Kojo offered a silent prayer of thanks and tried to pull off a nonchalant stroll into the kitchen. Kojo, you want to have a little snack out back? I'm frying eggplant with Parmesan. Yeah, that would be real tasty.
Mm-hmm.
He had to force himself to handle the plate without a nervous rattle. But at the same time, he felt strangely calm, as though the news he had received was natural.
Mm-hmm.
There's some Chardonnay in the fridge. Why don't we have some champagne?
Mm-hmm.
She stopped placing slices of eggplant, powdered with Parmesan, on the plates. Champagne? Yes, what better way to celebrate this $1.5 million grant I just got from the men? Akosua screamed and raced around the table to give him a gigantic embrace.
I
Oh,
know she
Kojo,
did.
that's wonderful,
I know.
fantastic. Yeah.
Small beginnings.
Oh, we can have Thelma over to begin set up office now and open a payroll. We in business. And aside. Yeah, folks, it was a done deal from the minute he told us that he wanted to do a film, not a movie, about my father's vision, his grandfather's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Njingo talked it over, and we clearly understood that he was not talking about a film that would have automatic acceptance or maybe no acceptance at all. Let's face it, Dad, we're talking about something that might be considered an art film and get art film reception.
Mm-hmm.
But I pulled his feet as close to the fire as I could. Is this going to be an important film, an important statement?
Mm-hmm.
Think big boy Michael Moore here.
Mm-hmm.
Boy reminded me so much of my grandfather. It took him damn near 5 minutes to think on my question and give me an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Dad, he found the answer. It's going to be an important film, an important statement.
Mm-hmm.
That was all we needed.
Wow.
Our son wanted to do an important film with an important statement. That was all we needed.
Mm-hmm.
The black men were shocked by the way I lobbied them.
Mm-hmm.
Look here, Brother Dirksen. Let's get real here.
Mm-hmm.
What is it going to take for the men to release some funds for my son's project?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brother Brown, we're not as concerned about the objective of the project as we're concerned about how we can capitalize on the project. We'll need some guarantees. It was not about nepotism. Let's get that squared away forthwith.
Mm-hmm.
If I had felt that Kojo's project was bullshit, I would have been the first to say that.
Mm-hmm.
No, my grandfather's eyes was about much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think enough of the men would have been in agreement with me. And they did agree with me.
Wow.
We saw the possibility of bringing out some stuff that 99% of the movies had never addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably hadn't even thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Who wouldn't want to be a part of that kind of history if they were responsible, reasonable men? Especially if he offered the possibility of making more money than had been plowed into the project.
Mm-hmm.
I hammered on that angle. And we, me and Jinga, offered the house, the store, her jewelry, and damn near everything else we could offer up as collateral. We wanted to make certain that the black men understood that they wouldn't lose their money no matter what happened.
Mm-hmm.
What were they offering, Kojo? 1.5 mil would barely cover commissary cost for major league mainstream production.
Mm-hmm.
The plus side of the whole thing is that the black men clearly endorsed creative efforts. Astute types answered question. Brother Kofi, what we're going to understand and relate to after my grandfather's eyes that we wouldn't have been aware of before the release of the film.
What did you say his name?
I'm saying this is one of the people talking to Kojo's father, who's asking a question because they're concerned about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Brother Kofi,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you asked me that question again because that's the way this brother talks. And I have to clear up his speech in order to imitate
Okay,
him.
got it.
Brother Kwame,
Mm-hmm.
you see, Brother Kwame.
Yeah.
What are we going to understand, relate to after my grandfather's eyes that we wouldn't have been aware of before the release of the film? In other words, what are you giving us that we didn't know that we'd already know? Fair question. I saw Waiting to Exhale by way of example, and the theater was filled with gray-haired African-American women who had stopped going to movies because there was nothing for them. They've lost too many sons and daughters to be thrilled by people getting shot up or blown up. I can't say that I love Waiting to Exhale, but no one can deny that it filled a niche. Hollywood thought it was taking a very bold step by releasing Exhale. It wasn't all that much of a bold step or a gamble. African Americans are the most loyal moviegoers in this country, especially the young ones. And if you give the older heads something of substance, we'll go see it too. Of course, my son would be able to explain much better than I'm explaining it, but we both feel that we're at a perfect time in our history to reveal some of the wisdom. Some of the wisdom, my brother. Some of the humor, my brother. Some of the common sense, my brother.
Gotcha.
Some of the attitude, some of the philosophy, whatever you want to call it, that our male elders have held on to and passed on to us. I think grandfather's eyes would force a lot of our people, especially the younger ones, to relate to their elders in a different, more positive way.
Yes.
I don't really think that a lot of young people, and some not so young, are even aware of how negative and disrespectful they are to their elders. As we all know, one picture is worth a zillion words.
Hey.
Some interesting stuff, really interesting stuff began to happen during the time that the men were debating over Kojo's project. One afternoon, 3 young brothers came to the bookstore looking for Kojo. Between the 3 of them, they could have opened up a jewelry store in the mall. That's how much bling bling they were wearing. Kojo isn't here. I'm his father. Can I help you? The spokesman for the trio came right to the point. Mr. Brown, we hear that Kojo be needing some coins for his project. We want to help him. Ask him to call me. Here my card is. I got together with Kojo a couple of days later, told him about his visitors and gave him the card. He came into the bookstore a day later, his face lit up with a big smile. Dad, I just came from a meeting with Mr. Big Time Woo Woo and some of his business associates. By the time we got to the business associates, he was laughing out loud. Come on, Kojo, don't keep the punchline to yourself. Okay, let me tell you about it. It seems that Mr. Big Time Woo Woo, don't you just love that name?
Yes.
He heard about my project. How do you think he got the word? Easy. 100 black men have 1,000 family members plus friends.
Okay.
The info could have come from anywhere. You didn't want to keep the project a secret, did you? Well, not really, but I did find it a little peculiar that these guys had all the info they have. What they wanted to meet and talk about was financing for the film, from above the line to way below the line. Hey, that sounds great, son. What could be better than having the support of your peers? Gotta ask one question though. Where they getting the money from? Same question I asked Dad, but a lot more diplomatic. Mr. Big Time assured me that it was good money. Good money. No taint on any of the greenbacks. But he hemmed and hawed about the sauce. I was quite diplomatic and polite about it, but I had to explain to him that it was very important that I had to know where the money was coming from for tax purposes and all that. He finally admitted it had something to do with drugs.
Oh, Lord.
You know, I didn't want to profile the young brothers, but that's the first thing that came in my mind when we talked in the bookstore. I don't think he could deal with where I was coming from. It would be incredibly wrong to have to say that my grandfather's eyes were made with cocaine money.
Mm-hmm.
I think grandfather himself would be a little pissed off about it.
I know.
And there we have the end of chapter 10.
Oh, that's cute.
What's going on?
And another of my peers trying to help out.
Oh, hey.
That was a little plot twist I didn't expect.
I
Okay.
thought so. I could tell from the expression on your face.
I appreciate that.
But
Thank you very much.
there it goes. And,
So that was 9 and 10.
9 and 10. I'm finding it really nice to deal with 2 chapters alone, aside from the fact it takes us quite right along. It also gives you a fuller picture in one setting.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I was chopping things off a little bit too abruptly because I didn't want to bore anybody.
Well, it's a good story, and I'm quite willing to tell you when I don't like something.
I do know that.
Okay.
I do know that. Alfred, she's talking to me. Yes.
Okay, and so this is, at least I find it a compelling story, and I think others have,
Okay.
mentioned it as well.
Okay, well.
So thank you. Your book can be purchased on Author House or at Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
You're talking about this book?
That book, which is The Snake Doctor.
The Snake Doctor.
Definitely. Okay. Ta-da! Right there. Yes, indeed. The Snake Doctor. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com. If you like these moments in time with Odie and Zola, please hit the like button below the video and subscribe. And we will see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, we got it.
With chapters 11 and 12.
That's right. That's right.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. I'm curious when Asiafo is going to show up again.
Me too.
Ciao.
Ciao.